Good evening. My name is Hannah Hassan. I am so very excited to be here tonight. I've been looking forward to this night for a very long time. I want you all to understand the process behind what you will witness here tonight. So back in 2020, I met via video with Dr. Johnson from UNC Charlotte, Boris Henderson, who you just heard from, and Mr. James Atkinson from the Optimist Park Neighborhood Association. During that meeting, they told me about Optimist Park and why it was important to document the stories from this neighborhood. I knew that this was something I wanted to be involved in. I explained my process to them. Dr. Johnson was always with it. But there was a little bit of trepidation on Boris and Mr. Atkinson's part. I knew that they liked me, I think, and trusted my work, but I could tell that both of them were deeply tied to and connected to this community and those who live here. They told me that I would have to build trust with people before they would just give me their stories, that I would have to make sure that people knew that my intentions were good. And I assured them, I can do that. We can do that, and we did. Once I was given the green light for this project, they gave me names and phone numbers of folks who lived, worked, played, prayed, and everything else in Optimist Park. And one by one, I called them. We were in the thick of COVID, so everything was done over the phone. I introduced myself and told them that I was gathering stories for a show that would go up in Optimist Park. Everyone treated me with kindness. Some folks were a bit iffy in the beginning, but we always found our way into each other. During these phone calls, folks shared their stories with me. Their stories of life in Optimist Park, of the moments that they purchased their homes, of the trials and tribulations that they had over the years, of the good and joyful times, of the faith and fear that they have experienced. On phone calls, they shared their stories, they shared their lives with me. And I held that with honor, with joy, with deep, deep reverence. And after hours and hours and hours of conversations, I began to write. I turned the stories that were shared with me into monologues. After I had a full body of work, I recruited some of the best storytellers in Charlotte who learned them, who would love them, give love and light and honor to them. And tonight, you will experience some of those stories on this stage. Please keep in mind, every single story that I've heard from my interviews won't be in tonight's show. Some of the conversations, they gave me inspiration, reaffirmed what I thought I knew, taught me something new, was important to add to another story, but might not have ended up being its own story for the show. So everyone that I interviewed, though you might not hear your specific story word for word here, I want you to know that you are here. You're in every story. You all are. You all gave to this project in such an important and impactful way. I hope you can see that tonight. I hope you can see that we all see you. We honor the contributions that you have made to this city. We want you here, and we need you here. Today, you will hear their truths. These are not fables. These are their true stories. I have changed some names and other identifiers to protect the identity of folks, but that's it. These are the true stories of life in a Black neighborhood that grew into itself. These are the stories of the love and joy of home. These are the stories of the hurt and fears of gentrification and displacement. These are true stories, Black stories, Charlotte stories, and they will make you feel all of the feels. And not only will we share stories through spoken word, we will storytell through music. The amazing songstress Jessica Max, and apparently she's an event production guru. I learned that when we started working together. She has come today with a band and singers that are amazingly talented. She sat with every story, read each one through, and paired each story or some of the stories with song. Each song that you will hear tonight also tells a story. We do not own rights to these songs. Please understand that hours of work and thought and consideration went into this production, and we honor all of the storytellers who have given their time, their talent, their treasure to this here tonight. And now, as we get started, we give love to the space that we are in. Thank you, Andrew Shipley, and all of the folks here at Missiongathering who have graciously shared their church home with us for tonight's show. This church was built after World War II by mill workers who would host fish fries every Friday to pay for the building. Tonight, as we speak stories of houses, of homes, of the people that have and still do occupy this land, we give honor, light, and respect to those who first occupied this land. We celebrate the indigenous peoples who built here, loved here, and lived here. This is the home of the Sugary people and the Catawba people. And as we pay homage to those who have tended to the soil, created home on this land, we speak with honor and reverence of our ancestors. We acknowledge the people stripped from their homelands of Africa, sold into chattel slavery and held without their consent. We acknowledge that they were bought against their will and made to work on these lands. They who experienced the ultimate displacement. We don't get us without them. We don't get the stories of Charlotte without them. We don't get Optimist Park without them. We work to remember, to document, to fight for what is ours because of them. I give to all here present tonight and those joining us at home, this land is my land, stories from Optimist Park.
My family moved to the area in 1960. I was born in 1963, and the family moved to 18th Street when I was 5 years old. I remember walking to Villa High School. It was a 2 or 3 story building, and I would walk to school and come back and play in the park. The original park, Optimist Park. This was the building. There was a building, yes, where we had boxing. We had basketball court, softball field, baseball field, and the playground. Growing up at Optimist Park, we had a lot of things to do. The Chapel of Christ King Church, and a lot of programs in the evening. Oh, yeah, we had after school, girlfriend society, the little boys club, cooking classes, and we had a pool table, a ping pong table, and a playground. Yes, we had it all. So, when we first lived there was a lot of stuff to do. In the beginning, it was a predominantly white neighborhood. And maybe between 3 or 5 black families lived there during that time. And for the most part, everyone got along. We all played together. We played basketball. Yes, basketball, and we played in the park. Yeah, we played till the street lights came on. Oh, don't you get caught in those street lights. Yeah, you think about that. I remember growing up there, and I just playing with the kids. It was a community. It was a village. I remember. As the years went by, black families did move into the area in the 70s when busing started. But we still had a good many white families that stayed for a long time. I know I went to school with them. And my parents were not the type to focus on color. We grew up, people are people. My brothers, they were musicians. So my family had a band. And at one point, we had exchange students live with us for 2 weeks. I can't remember where they were from. But this was in the early 70s, and there were 2 white boys who stayed with us. And in the back of the house on Caldwell Street, we had a shed, a barn, and my brother and them, they were always in there having band practice. They all got together and they played in the band. They wouldn't let me in because I was a girl. No, I couldn't come into the band room. Joe told me that I couldn't carry a note in a bucket. Yeah. So, but there was a tree. There was a tree back there. And me and my friend girls, we would sit in the tree. Yeah, always sit. And listen to music. We listen to music all day. Those are the best times. The best times I can remember. And my mama, she cooked every day. She was a housewife. So we ate good food every single day. She'd cook pinto beans, fried chicken, fatback cabbage, and collards. Yeah, we had a garden too. Whatever my daddy picked out the garden, that's what she cooked. It was just home to me. It was home. Just love. Home.
Was similar to that of many other families. We did what everyone else had to do. We did sweat equity. We attended meetings. Habitat really wanted to create community. They wanted people who already lived in Optimist Park not to feel like they were being left out. As a matter of fact, Habitat started in Optimist Park. And if you wanted to qualify for a home, you had to live in Optimist Park. I think it was a great idea because they made it available to the people in the community where they were building. Then they slowly expanded. If you work for something, then you're going to take care of it. My husband was more hands-on with hammers and nails, but the work wasn't just building a house. All the volunteers came to Chapel the Church the King for a meal at lunchtime. Sometimes some of the women would help with that. We would help prepare the meal for lunch. We would clean up after. That was probably some of the best times. The Habitat homeowners got to meet other homeowners and prospective homeowners. You got to kind of know people before you moved in there, and the experience with the volunteers was amazing. I remember one time I was just in tears, and I stood there and I looked at those people, and I didn't even know that they had helped provide a home for my family. It would be different if it was people that you knew your family or knew your struggle. But it was people from all walks of life. They were definitely some wealthy people, some middle class people, some poor people, just people. I met so many wonderful people. Half of them I don't remember their names, but just so many wonderful people. As we settled into our new homes, our community was definitely growing. We became a destination for people fleeing from other countries. I remember distinctly an influx of families from an Asian background. I forgot exactly which country they came from, maybe Vietnam. I don't know, but they came over in the boats, and the boats had been on the oceans for months. They were escaping conflict in their country. There was this big thing what people would say, they don't belong here. But the United States welcomed them here into communities like ours. Now, of course, they didn't put them in the other communities. They provided housing for them in our communities. It was an interesting dynamic, literally. Boats of people came in. It came with a bit of controversy. Some people had issues because we as black people, African Americans, had been here for a long time, and we were finally gaining some opportunity for habitat and something to bring us up a notch. And they had been here for a short amount of time, and they were getting the same opportunity. So there was a bit of tension. No, not tension. More than tension. It was awareness. To be honest, it wasn't only the Asians. There were Africans too. And we were like, well, we've been over here. We built this country. It was awareness. But there was no violence. Most of the time we couldn't understand them because of the language barrier. Their children would help with that. But there was awareness. Eventually, I became the president of Habitat Park Community Association. I created some trouble there. Oh, yeah. Pauline was the vice president. Barbara was an important part of the team. And let's see, Valerie was an important part too. We just did some things that was out of the box. We had more than our fair share of drugs in the community at the time. We requested more policing. The city eventually said, no, we can't do that for you. If you get more policing, everybody will want this. So we filled out a grant application with the city to get private police. We had hearings. We did the whole 9. We didn't get the grant. But we created enough ruckus where we got private donations and we got private policing. In retrospect, if I had had the same opportunity and could do it again, I wouldn't want to put those funds into policing. I would put them into the development of programs for those young men so they wouldn't have to do that. And then another time we had to fight for our community was when there was this asphalt plant that was going to be moved into our neighborhood, up on North Davison Street. They had already purchased the land. They had already gotten the zoning for it. The next thing they were going to do was break ground and build it without community notification. Somewhere from an adjoining community told me about it. We looked at it, found out it was true. So we went to the city council, and anytime I wanted them, I had the news media at my disposal. Anytime, I could write a press release in my sleep. So we got lots of media. I can't remember the name of the guy who owned the plant. Funny thing is, he was so sure of himself. He was kind to me. He really would speak to me and everything. Until we started winning. Then you could see his face, the hatred, because he didn't expect for us to win. And to tell you the truth, we didn't expect to win. They had already had everything they needed. They had the permits, the zoning, the land. They had the land. For us, winning would mean at least having some protocol in place. We were going for being removed from our neighborhood. And that's what happened. We went to the city council numerous times. We went on television numerous times. We were in the newspaper numerous times. It was a fight that took for months. And it was not just Optimist Park organization. Communities of Shalom through the United Methodist Church partnered with us, which means we had partners from different economic levels, educational levels, everywhere. Our president of Communities of Shalom was a financial advisor of one of the big banks. So we had backing. And it wasn't just us little old poor people just trying to do something. It was an environmental problem. Our kids are already dealing with issues. They had asthma, and it's going to create more breathing problems for those who didn't already have them. Not only our poor children, but our senior citizens too. An asphalt plant does not belong in the neighborhood. Just because you can get good folks downtown to rezone something doesn't mean it belongs to be there. Not in my community. Now, I don't know where my fire comes. I just know you should treat people the way you want them to be treated. I have a heart for my people. And I just see so often our communities, and we are at the bottom of the totem pole, so have always been willing to fight for what is right. Our community is coming in the way it did. It was past time. And we were and still will do whatever it takes to protect us. We deserve that. We will get that. It is justice. It is simple. But as long as there is injustice, I will always be somewhere speaking up, organizing people, doing whatever it takes to make the community better.
You know, I never thought Mother would have her own house. See, back in the day, we'd moved so many times, sometimes in a year, that sometimes it was hard to complete grades in school. By the time I was in the 6th grade, we had moved so much that I really didn't have grade averages in school. You know, we would move somewhere. For some reason, I would have to leave, so we would move. And then I would start the grade again, or they didn't have enough records, and then they would shift me up a grade. And that's how it went till I got into 10th grade. And it was so fast moving that I was confused myself. I was trying to figure it out. How did I get in this grade? Mother was a good mother. I used to laugh when I would tell people about my mother. She wasn't a physical touch person, but she gave me love all the time. So love came into my heart and with my mother when I was a little boy. You know, we grew up poor. I would be belly aching about comic book or wanting a bicycle or something like that. And I remember one day mother looking down at me and saying, "You the man now. You are the man now." And that's when I started having responsibilities. She gave me my adventure, you know. She kicked me out the house and I say, "Mother, what am I supposed to do now?" And she said, "Well, find you some adventures." So it would be me and my dog Rex roaming around and looking for something to get into. From the time we started to walk, everybody in my family had a position. You know, when my mother left the house, my older sister put the apron on and she gave us a lot of hugs without giving the hugs. You know, I used to tell people that we weren't poor, we were po. You know, sometimes I look back on life and wish that mother would have paid more attention to our education and things. But she had to work. I think when I came over here, it bothered me because we was on welfare. Mother shopping at Family Dollar, and the guys used to pick at me for my clothes. I had to wear cheap tennis shoes. And when I got a little older, I knew that the only way things could be better was for me to start working. I started working in 10th grade. I'd get up in the morning and went to work, and after work I went to school, and things started changing a little bit. I always shared my income. It helped because it would do things like give us, me and my 9 sisters, spare change. We would go across the street and to the store and get some snacks or something. It made me feel like I could make it. I didn't want mama's light to get cut off anymore. I didn't want the heat to get cut off anymore. I wanted her to be able to go to the grocery store without food stamps. My mother also kept a tight ring on me. And by the time I was in the 10th grade, I was ready to run away from Charlotte. I thought I was going to die out here, die or be in jail, be on drugs. And by that time, I had a stepfather. Growing up one morning in the 11th grade, he was shaking my bed and asking what was I going to do. And then again in 12th grade, by that time, I decided I was going into the military. I grew up, went to the military, came back, and it was a shock. Charlotte had changed. I got married and divorced and was living in South Charlotte. Now, one day I talked to mother and she told me about the house, the new house we were getting. I thought it was going to be a lease house or something. She said, "No, it's going to be our house." Now I was confused about it all. She kept saying that they were building a house where we used to play baseball, and she kept talking about this 300 volunteer hours, and I was confused by it all. She said, "Well, could you come by? The president's going to be here, and Julia Maulding and a lot of others." And she kept telling me they're going to build a house in a week. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure, mother." Mm-hmm. But when I came over there, pulled up off Davidson and drove up 19th Street, the whole area was clean. I mean, they had the trucks out there. They had the construction workers out there. They had the supplies out there. There was a brief moment when they talked about what was going to happen, and I met President Carter. I was surprised because he looked normal. You know, had on khakis, had a hammer in his hand. He shook my hand real tight. So the speech happened, and then the family started putting in their 300 hours. And when our family was building our home, all of the signatures of the occupants in the house, we were left We're left on the drywall in the home. So our names are etched into the home. We started a legacy that day, and the rest is literally history. Wow. My eyes got kind of watery to see it start to take shape. And the only thing that was in my mind that I never thought Mother would have a house. And many of the folks who got the Habitat houses never thought they would own a home. We call it blessed land here, blessed land. We never thought we was going to get a home, but we felt that we were blessed to be here, and the land was good. It gave foundation. It gave us a place. We felt that we weren't going to be moving. The mortgage was at a level that we could afford. And one of my most important memories in that house was when I finally had a moment with my mother that had taken 37 years to get to. This was my first time hugging my mama. I got out of the military. I was here. I was there, getting in and out of trouble. The probation counselor had come to Mama's house about me, and I didn't know they were going over there. So I was driving to Mother's house, and the closer I got to the house, I got more afraid. And when I got into the house, she was crying, and I said, "Ma, I know people are saying a lot of stuff about me, but it's going to be okay." She said, "Well," I said, "Mama, it's going to be okay." And I hugged her. And I hugged her briefly. And she held on to me and told me to never stop hugging me. And she needed that hug probably 20 years ago. I think she had always seen strength in me. Maybe she had been intimidated to give me a hug. I don't know. I just think I should have been man enough to do it a long time ago. Maybe I didn't know how. We didn't get a lot of touches growing up. And that happened in this home. Before my mother died one day, she was out on the porch, and I was saying, "Mama, how are you now?" She said, it's like McDonald's. I can finally have it my way. And she didn't have to worry about her bills no more. She didn't have to worry about food no more. I had paid the house off. She didn't have to worry about her birthday no more. Her kids were grown. We had food in the house. She had friends that cared about her. Grandkids was grown. She was very well waiting on the Lord, I guess. It took a long time to get there, but Mother finally found some peace in her life. Her life had been like, you ever see a person sitting on the end of the lake fishing and the fish ain't biting, but you just find you just taking it all in, taking in the air, in life. It's so funny because I would come over to the house and Mother would just be sitting at the table, looking out the door, eating fish. And I would be like, "Mama, you ever gonna move from that position?" I find myself in that position now. When I eat, I sit at my table. I'm looking out the door and seeing the cars go by and watching people go up and down the street. I could sit somewhere else, but I sit in the same area. People don't understand how hard it is to grow tomatoes. I've been trying to grow tomatoes a lot. I read about them because I don't just want to grow any tomato. I want a juicy tomato, you know. Once you get it established and understand what it takes to grow a good one, you never forget that. You appreciate it because you can do it. You know, I grew this tomato. You know, it's red and it's sweet and I can grow it again because I know the land. I feel like the land, this land, is blessed land because anything I plant on it can grow. And anybody that comes on it, they will be protected.
I am a woman that prays daily for wisdom and stature and favor. I speak the word and work the word and use the word and look at other opportunities to use the word to inspire other people. My life has been a blessed out story. I never considered myself smart. At some point at the beginning of my journey, I actually thought I was not good enough or not smart enough to get a piece of the American dream because I was so deep in poverty. I couldn't see my way out until I got chosen to be a Habitat recipient. I would pray, Lord, just provide for me a shelter for me and my kids, adequate shelter. Lord, just do that and I will work and do whatever it takes to get us out of poverty. I hate poverty. It strips you from your potential. It shut down opportunities for me to become a visionary. Because when I stopped and looked around me, everybody was in the same boat and I couldn't do it. I just refused to be like the next person. My mother got married early. She had me early, and they always talked about work. Working inside or being a caretaker or cleaning up houses. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to clean up houses. I want my own house. I don't want to wash your windows. I want my own windows. So it's always been something inside of me. And Psalms 23 was the only scripture that I knew at the time, so I worked it, or I prayed it. And back in those days, there were no preachers teaching you about upward mobility, sustainability, or economics. So I gravitated towards that scripture because I was in living hell. I was living in hell. Poverty is hell. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I was living in horrible conditions, in a dilapidated apartment with a slumlord who didn't care about me or my family struggling in that house. And things really came to a head when my son got bit by a rat in the home. I had code enforcement and all of that to come out. Come to find out, every code violation that was given to the landlord never went anywhere. I found out he was on the housing board. So he continued to not do any repairs. Now, understand, to this day, the apartment is still there. I called the news media out, everything. I was praying so hard at that point. I knew he might kick me out, and I was afraid of being homeless. And prior to all of that happening, I had completed an application for Habitat for Humanity. I could not bear to have my kids living in a rat-infested, broken-down apartment. Once my son was bit by the rat, it put me at another level in the habitat process. It put me next in line. And God did that. Within probably 2 or 3 months of the rat bite, Habitat called and said that I was approved. It was my story that got me approved. Who better deserves a miracle than somebody like me? A single mother with 3 kids, and one has just been bit by a rat. It turns out that I was a recipient for the Habitat for Humanity project called Miracle on 19th Street. That was in 1988. When we came along, all of the families for that project had picked out their lot, and I was pretty much the last recipient to receive that lot that I'm on now. It's only by default that I acquired this lot. A previous person that was approved, something had happened with them and they could no longer take the lot, so the last one was ours. There were 18 other families, and I made 19. Miracle on 19th Street. I was the 19th home. Our homes were built in love. That Saturday, we had volunteers who came to help move our furniture into our houses, and then there was a celebration. They built these houses in 5 or so days, and then on the 7th day, we celebrated at the Coliseum. It was there that we got our keys to come back to our new house and start a new journey as homeowners. I was always preparing for better. My father instilled in me, you can do better. You are not your circumstances, you can do better. And I worked hard at doing better. I started thinking about insurance. I need some health insurance for my kids just in case they got hurt. And the fast food job wasn't cutting it, so I knew I needed a job with insurance. And every day back when I was living in the apartment, I used to pass by Belmont Center and say, Lord, I wish I could work there. I was having to drop my kids off at the daycare over near there and then take 2 buses to get to my job. I was fortunate enough to have help with daycare through child care resources, but the other services I was not eligible for. When I tried to get crisis assistance and all of that, I was denied. There was a time that I made too much for child care assistance, to $7, too much. So my oldest daughter had to keep my younger kids, and she was around 10, taking care of 2 of her siblings until I got home. They had to become latchkey kids because I made $7 too much. You talking about a struggle. I hate poverty because of what I went through. There were days that I didn't even know it could be that bad, and I worked harder and I prayed harder. I had to depend on God. And through the grace and mercy of God, I got hired by the city. I was referred through a friend. A friend helped me make that connection. So in addition to a home, I've now got a job with promise, with insurance. Big blessings, back to back, a new house and a new job. About 10 years ago, our job moved to Belmont Center. And the very moment we moved in there, I went to the top of the stairs and looked out the window. And I could see it. That young girl walking down the street with her kids saying, one day, Lord, can I please work in that place so I won't have to go to the bus stop? I saw where I used to be, hoping, wishing, praying for a miracle, on the outside looking in. And then, at that moment, I was on the inside looking out. When I tell you a blessed out story, my life has been nothing short of a blessed out story. Habitat was a blessing for me. And as for me and my house, I'm not selling. I plan on building. God gave me this. I'm not selling, I'm building. Getting my home in this way made a believer out of me, so now I keep the 91st Psalm in my head and my heart. It's my prayer for protection so that he can hide me. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High, I will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. When my house was built, they asked me to get keepsakes from me and my kids to put there when they laid the foundation. One of the things that we gave them was a Bible. The house is built on a Bible. The foundation of my life is the foundation of my home. And I thank God that he would take someone like me, to use my life, and how he showed me grace and mercy to love me unconditionally in spite of my conditions. That he would take his word, and he made it so through me to show that his word is true. I am a living testimony of what God can do. I give all of the honor and glory. I could not have thought it, planned it without him. He is the miracle maker.
My mom was the type of person, she loved family. She loved gatherings, she loved occasions, she loved her grandkids. She had a lot of those. She even loved her neighbors, and her neighbors loved her. She never had any problems with her neighbors. When somebody moved in, she went and welcomed them. Now, my mother cleaned for the white families, but she also worked in the theater. Actually, it was a place for adult films. But over the top of the theater, there were apartments. Come on now, there were apartments. And this is where the ladies of the evening lived. And they would come down every day and talk to my mom about their problems, just like she was their mother. And she would listen to them. Now, this place, this theater, is on 36th Street. My mom did the tickets, she did the concessions, and she was the cashier. But this is the interesting part. Because people would come in and buy the tickets to see the adult films, Mama had a Bible. She had tickets in one hand and the Bible in the other. And you know she was talking about that Bible while they was trying to go see those adult films. But she worked there for years, and everybody loved her. Yeah, everybody loved Mama. She was a great woman. I had people outside of the family that wanted her to be their mother. That's just how great she was. And before she passed, she said that this house was supposed to be a space where everybody could come when they got old and they had no place else to go. You see, we were living in an older house, and the city said that it had to come down. The house was about 100 years old, and it was run down. And so we moved out, and we moved to Hidden Valley. And we stayed there a year, and the city had this program, and you paid partial rent. But we were so excited to get back to Optimist Park, especially Mom. She would ride by every day as this house was being built, and she would look at it every single day. She was in a wheelchair, so the house was made wheelchair accessible. And it was finally ready for her to move in. And in 2000, she got sick. And she ended up in the hospital, and she had pneumonia and the flu. Well, we would go by, and we took the keys to the house. And even though she was semi-alert, she held those keys. Yes, she did. We wanted her to hold those keys so that she would know that her house was ready for her to come home. We moved in on the 15th, and she passed on the 19th. So she never got to come home, Well, not that way. Now the house is a headquarters for family. We celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving, and we have dinners, and the sisters come and we all get together. You see, though my mother never got to come in the house, we know that she is in the house. She's all over, and it's impossible to forget. You see, the memories that we made in the past, they still hold with her until we all get back together again. So until then, we just continue to make memories with our family, because it's a holder of our history and our memories. It's the manifestation of one of Mama's dreams and one of her prayers. This is our family home, and it's always going to stay that way.
My story in Optimist Park is one of full circle moments. I didn't live in the neighborhood, but I worked in the neighborhood. My role was co-director of an after-school program for the community, the Teen Club. I was there 2 or 3 days a week. I worked there with Dawn. She was co-director with me. You see, the church, they already had a program for the younger kids. So they wanted something with the teenagers, the 13 to 18 years old. Dawn and I came in and formed a program with some of the middle school and high schools. I grew up without a father, household in Cincinnati. So family is a big thing for me. Watching out for the teenagers was more than just a job. I went to school meetings with parents who couldn't make it. Maybe a student was in trouble or needed help, and we would show up, meet with the counselors on the parents' behalf. We went to parent-teacher conferences. It was more than just being on site from 3 to 7 every day. It was more than just a job. Now, students brought their books. They brought homework. If they tried to tell me they did not have homework, I would print off math worksheets, or they would have to read or write essays. If they tried to tell me they didn't have homework, they were still going to do some work. Now, I was pretty demanding. I was not going to ease up my expectations on them. If they were going to be in there, they were going to be productive. That was my word. Productive. Now, you are going to be productive while you with me. My expectations is that whatever grade level they were in, they were going to accomplish those things expected for them from the school. You know, they were going to learn what they needed to learn in their classes. Math is very big for me. Vocabulary is big for me. So back then, you had 20 vocabulary words and you were expected to have a test on Friday. Well, they knew Mr. Mark's test is going to be on Wednesday, and then again on Thursday. So I know you're going to be ready on Friday. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. This was important for me because some of the lack of expectations in my life. It was knowing the potential I had at a young age that it wasn't being pulled out of me. I mean, you know, my mother did demand a certain level of respect. She demanded that what you were supposed to do, you do. But the follow-up and the surety of knowing most of the time did not happen. And it certainly did not happen by my father. Fortunately enough, I got exposed to Mr. Frederick Douglass from history, and he said something like, if nothing is expected of a people, people will find it very difficult to contradict that expectation. That pierced my spirit. From what I remember, Mr. Douglass said he made that statement because if you prevent someone from struggling, you're preventing them from knowing what potential they have. So through this expectation, you have to struggle. But with that struggle comes strength. You have the opportunity to reach or find resolve in your own doing. I never gave my students an option to say, I don't know. You know, it's a statement of ignorance, lack of knowledge. And the worst thing you could not know is yourself. You've got to know yourself before you can do anything, and knowing yourself is a continuous process. If I ask you a question and you say to me, I don't know, that was a totally unacceptable answer for me and was subject to you getting jacked up by the collar. There was one time, I remember it like it was yesterday. One of the students came to me with a report card, and I saw that he had changed the grade. Now, I gave him ample opportunity to explain to me how and why this grade got changed. He never did fess up that he did it. I stood up, jacked him up against the wall, and told him, do not lie to me. And most of all, do not lie to me about something about you. If you fool yourself with this, that's one thing. But it's not negotiable that you fool me. And it shouldn't be negotiable that you fool yourself. But you taking this grade and changing it to something that don't apply, you fooling yourself. Don't do that. You're not going to do it to me, period. It's non-negotiable. But I'm begging you, most of all, son, don't do it to yourself. Glad he got down from the wall. I gently let him down from the wall. And I want to say he had a few tears in his eyes. And from then on, he really made some changes. Started to bring in some work and got busy. Unfortunately, he made some mistakes down the road, and I still have the news article of where he ended up incarcerated for murder. I mean, I really, literally still have the article. I think about it a lot. It makes me feel sad. What is it that I didn't do? You know, what didn't I do to prevent a situation like that? In the same way that I didn't accept failure from the students, I don't accept it from myself. I feel like there was something that I could have or should have done to prevent him from ending up on that road. That student's path was a rocky one. Some others might have had difficulties too. And then there were also students who really rose to the occasion. One student I still have a relationship with to this day. He was a stellar student, an athlete, and he's a stand-up man now. I still stay on his back now. You know, now that you've got to where you are, how you doing as a father? You know, how are you giving back to the community? How are you standing in your potential? I'll never stop having high expectations of them. They deserve to have many people in their life who believe in them. Some years ago, we took about 15 kids on a field trip to Washington, D.C. We were able to get to the White House and see the Smithsonian and stuff, and monuments. But one of the most important parts we were able to take them to Frederick Douglass Memorial Site right there in D.C. Yeah, I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to take them there. We were able to tour the house and the grounds and everything. If I would have left that day, if I would have been called home after that moment, then God, I'm good. I didn't go on my first vacation until I was 19. So to be able to take some kids on a vacation like that and do what we did, come on now. Some of those kids had never been out of Charlotte. I see the parallels of what these kids went through to what I went through. Financial struggles, no family car, no grocery stores nearby. Frederick Douglass said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. My job was that of a builder. One young person, one student, one opportunity at a time.
I moved down here from D.C. in 1968. It was an immediate culture shock. I could have never known that I was going to be the product of integration. My first experience was elementary school. I was in my last year of elementary school, and we were bused in what was the white school at that time, Villa Heights. It was an all-white school, but about halfway through that school year, black folks started attending. We walked to school. My siblings, me, and the other kids, we would walk and talk and go into a school that often felt like it didn't want us there. For me and my brother next to me, it was an eye-opener. It really was. I mean, they were still doing what they call paddling in school, you know, giving whippings and punishments. But we never got it. But that's what they were doing still when we got there. I don't remember having a black administrator, but I do remember a black teacher, Mr. Greer, who taught there for years. Even when my last sister who came after me was there for 1 year, she had Mr. Greer. He was there way before we came to North Carolina, and he was there when we left. Mr. Greer stands out to me because he made assistant principal, and we thought he was going to save the whole world for us. He was a good teacher, and he was black. Being at that school for the first time when I was there, I was scared. It didn't look like what I was used to. I can't speak for my siblings because we never talked about it any further than just saying, wow, ain't no other black kids in this school? To have other black kids around meant that there were people who looked like me. And it was important to have that because we were separated from those who didn't look like me. They weren't as friendly. And when it came time to sit with our trays for lunch, let's just say they had their ways about it. They were being raised a certain way. So they wasn't just going to come and migrate to the table and say, you're a new person. Hi, my name is Sally. Nice to meet ya. No, that wasn't happening. All the black kids wasn't all in the same grade, so we couldn't sit together at lunch because we weren't in the same grade. There was safety with the kids from the neighborhood. It wasn't so much whether or not we were friends, but we knew each other. We felt safe with each other. Middle school was different. We went to Hawthorne, which was black. Felt free. We could play sports and see each other often. Everybody was accepted. We all stood on the line of equality. It felt like we made progress forward because we had more black teachers. Everybody had friends of their own, and all their classes were together. And of course, we stuck together. But you just had to make friends with other people. Plus, the white people was outnumbered probably 3 to 4 to 1. It felt like we had some common ground. During my last year, we started being bused from Hawthorne to Eastway Middle School. This was when middle school had 9th grade. This just so happened to be the time when the coaches and the PE teachers were from my church. We had more black teachers there. We had a volleyball team. I don't know if it was my gym coach who knew me or what. It got to be and I got to be the captain. But I hurt my left leg. The coach said, "You still can call the game from the sideline. It's up to you if you want to liquidate your responsibilities and allow somebody else, but you still can call the game." So I was thinking to myself, this right here is a good thing. This is my time to shine. So we're playing in the playoffs. I called the game. That was great. I was high. I was on way on top of that mountain. And it meant something to have coaches who knew me from the church, especially a coach who was willing to give me a chance to call the shots. I never forgot that moment. In high school, I started out at East Mac, which was a white school at the time, and they bused us from Garinger from high school. Garinger had more black kids. We noticed a difference immediately. East Mac had all the latest and greatest books and classrooms and everything. Then we go to Garinger, and it was like, who told him to leave the door open? You know, the gym, the weight rooms for the boys, and the uniforms were years and years old. It was a big difference, and you could tell coming from one place and then back to the other in North Charlotte. It was a dark time for me. I ended up graduating from Garinger. I just always happened to be in the group that got tossed around. 10th grade was hard to swallow, but 11th grade got a little bit better. I have thought about the fact that I have been a sample of integration in Charlotte. I was bused all around the city from school to school. Seems like moving our people from place to the next place has been happening in many different ways. Not just in our neighborhoods, but also in the schools. Makes you wonder what impact it has when folks can't have roots.
You know, I've seen it all here. It's home. I've been here in Optimist Park since I was a little boy. My family moved up here from South Carolina when I was like 5, so yeah, this is home. And I can remember all the way back then, from the early years, I remember what it was like growing up in Optimist Park. I started out on the porch. We couldn't go outside or do too much. You know how it is when your moms want to keep you safe. I was one of the ones who had to be in the house, couldn't go off the porch. So I used to see all the kids playing, and I love football. I would see the guys out. They was playing football or basketball, and I couldn't wait for the day when I was going to be able to run with the big boys. Initially, I made most of my friends in school, and even the friends I would hang out with in school, we couldn't do too much together after school because we were on a different level with parenting, lockdown level. See, all the kids who have been here and lived in Optimist Park, their parents knew each other. They had been around, so it was nothing for them to be able to play together. But that wasn't my story. Me being the new kid on the block, my parents weren't letting me go out. And that was a couple of years. I mean, sometimes the kids would go around, try to stop by and see if we could go out and do that kind of thing. But I was raised on a tightrope. and I learned to respect it. When I finally got the opportunity to step out around 8 or 9, that brought a whole different perspective. Me and the guys would play football, and Optimist Park was not a rich area, so we worked with what we had. Some kids might have bikes, some didn't. If we were playing football and our friend with the ball got in trouble, we couldn't have a game. Those were all important parts of our development, being able to meet people and learn to operate in different environments. In summer at Optimist Park back then was popping. First thing first, you wake up in the morning. 9 times out of 10 on a summer day, you had already spent the night at a friend's house or something like that. You get up and get yourself together, get your clothes on and go eat, and then you head outside. As soon as you head outside, it'd be like 10 kids around, running around, playing tag or a football game going already. So as soon as you come out, you join the game. Football might go till 1 or 2. It's a summer day, so of course the pool is open. Y'all want to go swimming? Get some change together, count the change, go swimming. Pool close around 5. Go back to the neighborhood. Parents ain't on no video games during the summer, so we outside till it get dark. Street lights come on, and sometimes it used to get to me that we had to be in when the street lights came on. But as I got older, I would see why. Parents trying to keep you safe. But man, those were the times. Sometimes we would switch it up. We might go swimming today, then we go bike riding tomorrow. We would alternate, and when we went bike riding, like 10 kids from Optimist Park would link up, and we would go play another neighborhood in football or something. Our rival neighborhood was, man, everybody. It was because a lot of our rivals were passed down from older generations. We were good in sports. If you had a kid that was going to be something in sports, have your babies in Optimist Park. My uncles and them boxed. When Optimist Park first had the gym on Caldwell Street, people from other neighborhoods would come over and want to box. Like, don't y'all know we superstars over here? Y'all ain't ready. And then of course, when the summer was over, we all went to school together. We all had our crushes. We would go to the park after school, and on the weekends, there was nothing to do there but make fishing poles and play around. And you know, you might find that one you got your eye on. She might come through and y'all talk and run around and play together. There are some to this day that are still an item. My real first girlfriend, I met her in Optimist Park at the church. We all attended the church. I used to like her. I never said anything to her or let her know I liked her. Now I'm real different. But I was shy back then. I didn't know what to say or how to put the words together to say what I needed to say. So one day, I came home from football practice, and she was spending the night with my sister. And if my sister was having a sleepover, you know I had to go somewhere. So she was spending the night at the house, and I couldn't do nothing but start smiling when I saw her. I left, and she ended up leaving our house the next day. I used to talk to my sister about things, and my sister would do the same with me, so of course I asked her about her friend. You and Dion friends? I like her. You like her? Okay. My sister said something to her. My brother like you, or whatever. She must have liked me as well, and it just went from there. She was pretty and she was tall. I always had an eye for tall girls. It came from when I was young. I used to love climbing trees. So I used to say when I was young, I wanted to have a tall wife so we could have tall kids. I don't know. I just like the way she carried her height. As I got to know her, she was pretty cool. Her family was cool. She was definitely a catch at that age. Man, those were the days. And I know it's an impossible dream, but I would love to see it how it used to be. A bunch of kids in the street playing, having a good time, and the older folks on their side of the street coaching us and making sure we're doing what we need to do, reminding us to stay in school. The kids now don't get to see that because a lot of these people don't know each other now. And it's hard for people to talk to somebody they really don't know. I mean, before it wasn't nothing for kids to be in the street and a car come down the street and, you know, get out the street is what you're supposed to do. And we still in the middle of our football game. We was here first. Y'all see us. We'll move when this play is over, you know. Then you have somebody in the neighborhood who's from the neighborhood, who knows us and our family tell us, man, get your ass out the street. You know your mama wouldn't play that. Don't be in the streets playing around. What are y'all doing in school? You got good grades? You still playing ball? Making sure we're good. That's what I want for the next generation. But it's a lot of things that's going to be missed because Optimist Park is changing. Optimist Park has changed. Thank you.
My parents were married 69 years. Some of y'all can't stay together 69 minutes. They were the oldest couple in Optimist Park. And my dad had his own business. He was a concrete finisher. And my mom was a housewife until my dad got sick, and then she went to work for the white folks for a while. Now, my parents got married in 1949. And it was a beautiful experience growing up. They taught us so much, but basically, they taught us love. Now, if my parents had a disagreement, we never knew it. If they argued, they kept it to themselves. There wasn't no fighting, so all we experienced was love. Now, we didn't want for a lot. I guess it's because my dad was born in Blair, South Carolina. That's somewhere down there between Chester and Columbia. And my mom was born in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So my dad experienced a lot of racism. It was a place where they took your land and gave you pennies for it. So he made up in his mind that his family would want for nothing. Whatever we wanted, we had. If he had it, he gave it to us. And he even extended it outside the family. That's just the kind of person he was. You know, you talk about your cousins, and they say cousins are family. Well, when we say cousins, we say they're your best friends, and they know you because you're crazy. Well, we weren't a crazy family. They were just our cousins. So they moved in with us when they didn't have a place to go. And there were a lot of people. My parents had 12 kids. Yes. 8 of them living, 5 aunts, and her kids. See, that's a lot of family. But we made it work. I was the only girl, so I had my own room. And the boys, they had bunk beds. And like I said, we made it work. Now, my mom, she would get up and cook breakfast. She always cooked grits. So when I do this, would y'all say grits? Okay. If she cooked chicken, we had grits. If she fried fish, grits. Whatever meat she cooked, we had grits. Oh my gosh. But she made sure that we ate. And she would make these homemade biscuits. Oh, Lord. Woo. With butter. Before we went to school, if we didn't have anything but Ritz crackers and juice, we had something before we left that house. See, we were lucky to get the experience of watching them go through those tender moments. My dad would come home and he'd see Mom cooked in the kitchen. You know what he'd do? He'd pat her on that butt. Yeah. They didn't say, I love you. They showed love. And that's how we learned love. And for us, Daddy would always give us cookies and candy and snacks. He would come home at lunchtime and he would go through the park and he would blow the horn and let us know he was coming home. And he would let the boys have sleepovers and parties, and we had just tons and tons of food. And then When he got paid, he'd give the check to Mama. Mama handled the finances. Y'all know. And then when he got his check, he would give us an allowance. He would call us each individually in and give us an allowance. Oh my gosh, we had truly a blessed family. I thank God for my parents. They were together forever. Remember, I said they got married in 1949. So we used to celebrate their love. We would have a community cookout every year for their anniversary. We did that for 34 years. We, the kids, cooked, and we invited everybody in the community, and everybody from all over came. I mean, everybody. So when my mom passed, my dad didn't want to have a cookout anymore. So we changed it to his birthday. And we would celebrate his birthday every year until he was 90 years old when he died. Yes. So they were truly one of a kind couple. They gave so much love everywhere they went. And they shared love in Optimist Park. That house, that home that we lived in was like a safe haven. And people still go there, and we still cook, and we have our fish fries. It was a house built on family and love. And it's always been family, and it's always been love.
We got condos coming up in front of me and beside me. They not having respect of us getting in and out. The trash people can't even get in. My neighbor, one of the trucks backed down here and backed into her flower pot. It's no respect. It makes no sense. You know, it's been pretty rough. I did early retirement because I take care of my parents. And when I leave in the morning and come back home around noon, the road is blocked. I can't even get in my driveway because they park on both sides of the road. You gotta beep your horn and keep telling them to move. We've called the city. Why we gotta keep saying this? My husband had to walk our trash can to the corner up here so we could get our trash out. Why we gotta do that? We shouldn't have to keep doing that. They have no respect for us down here. I've been here 30 years, going on 31. Everybody's getting older. It's much quieter now. We've called the police numerous times on some of the neighbors and some of the activity that has gone on. Our cul-de-sac is dark. We have cars that park down here and the dog go to bark. And they sitting out there and you find trash in the street. And it's just like, why we got to live like this? I tried to get a street light. They said we couldn't get a street light down here. But I'm pretty sure now, since they put new condos, we're gonna have more light. A long time ago, before they even started building, we had a meeting down at the church. Now, I can't think of everybody that was all there. We was at the 15th Street Church down off Davidson. And there was probably maybe 10 or 15 neighbors there. You know, everybody didn't come out, but we was there. And they was talking about building then, and we didn't like the idea. And they kept saying, it's gonna be okay, we gonna help you, and it never helped us. And I had thoughts. I mean, I didn't like the idea. I know everything has to change, but just coming in and building and not coming around and getting our opinions about how we feel, it didn't make no sense. We just sitting at the church and just talking, and no one heard our story. When I heard they were going to start building, all I hear is they gonna push me out. I'm gonna have to give up my house. The taxes gonna go high, and they have. That means I'm gonna have to move, but I'm not going anywhere. By the grace of God, I'm still here, and I'm gonna be here. And when I'm going to glory, I plan on leaving this house to my kids. They're not gonna push me out. When I first heard about it, I was really hurt. You know, I knew I couldn't afford to go anywhere. I had no idea where I was going to go, and I didn't like it at all. Just coming here and build and don't get anybody's opinion. Hell, I didn't even get to sign a petition. I remember when I got this house. It was special, you know, being young and black, my own home. You know, we purchased it for ourselves. As long as we keep it up and pay taxes, they can't put us out. You know, my kids had their own space and their own yard, and I like that. getting out of the apartments and having their own yard. But right now I feel like I'm being bullied. They keep putting stuff in my mailbox. They calling my daughter, stop harassing me. I don't want to sell my house. If I did, I would contact you. Stop. I don't want them calling my daughter's phone because this is not her house. Jimmy Carter started this. And that's precious to me. We had a president start this for low-income people. They don't care nothing about that. A president started this neighborhood. That's precious to me. And I don't know if they know or not, but that is very special to me. This is historic. They shouldn't be tearing down these houses. Fix them up, if anything, instead of tearing them down and putting all these condos over here. I don't care how much I paid for it when I moved in. It's now more valuable. It's memories. I raised my kids here, my grandkids. It's priceless to me. I'm originally from here, from Charlotte. I grew up in Greer Heights, and I see changes over there. You know, my parents are there now, so I know. And it makes me sad to constantly get pushed out. It makes no sense. You know, I ask the Lord to forgive me, but you see more white people than black. Where the black people at? You know, my grandparents stayed right over off Trade Street when I was a little girl, and I was raised over there, and now I go over there, and I'm like, what's going on? Don't even recognize it anymore. Everywhere I know that black people used to go, they are all displaced. I don't even know where they go. Where do they go?
Listen, I remember it like it was yesterday. We stayed over on Landis in some apartments. My brother stayed over here across from us. He told us about Habitat. That's how we got into it. Told us about the Jimmy Carter Project, and we was like, oh wow, sign us up. We wanted to get out of renting apartments. We wanted to own our own home one day.
We went to a meeting and fell in love with Habitat and went through the application process.
What we did was we had to put in some hours. I was working down there at Highland Mills full time, but we still had to put in volunteer hours. 360 hours to be exact. When I tell you we had to put in, we had to put in.
We had to do that and to build up sweat equity. I mean, we went to other houses and helped other homeowners, but, you know, we would weed eat and cut grass, painting, and do all that stuff to help prepare others to move into their homes. You know, sheetrock, nailing, and a whole bunch of stuff. We had to help do it to get our hours in. You know, we would do it on the weekend. We would get other people to help with our hours too. You know, it helped us. It helped us out because on the weekends, lots of people with family and friends would come and work.
Now, I would leave Highland Mills, and Mr. Frank was one of the first houses. He was working with Habitat too. He was one of the main people that I would come to. Now, I would tell him that I wanted to put in hours going towards my house. We would go to a different site. He was like, I'll put the sheetrock in and tell me to do the stuff like go in the room and sweep up, like maybe where the builders left debris. I didn't care what it is. Clean up, pile stuff up. That's what I would do every day. And where we stay now, this whole area where we stay now at the time was a whole football field. And when I say I would leave work and go and ask Mr. Frank for hours, he would say, well, get the weed eater. And I didn't care. Now, I'm a girly girl. I like my makeup. I like to look good. I like my hair done. But I wanted to put my hours in because I wanted my home. I wanted our home for our children. I wanted our hours to be done. He would be on the road because he was a truck driver. Now, we had to put in those hours, so me and my children, we did what we could. He would put in hours in, but not like me and my kids could, not until the weekends. So on the weekdays, I would do the little I could. Now, I would get that weed eater, and I would weed eat this football field daily. I didn't care if it was 20 or 30 minutes a day. I would put my hair up in a ponytail, and I would do what I could. And me and my husband and my family, we were the first ones out of the group of 5 families to finish our 360 hours. Now, the first family to finish their hours would get to pick a lot, and we got to pick a lot of our choice.
Sure did. And we picked the biggest lot right there in the cul-de-sac.
It felt so good when we got the keys. It was beautiful. To get the keys for the first time to our new home, that was so exciting. And our kids, oh my goodness, come on inside, look at our home. My goodness, that was such a good feeling. For them to walk into our home, into our own bedroom, that was beautiful. It was a home of our own. We sweated. We did what we did. We put everything into it. It was a home of our own.
Yes. And it was also special because of the help that we received in the process. Now, my dad helped me out a lot. My dad and my best friend, we had to paint the house ourselves, but you know what was funny? We painted the house the whole time in the cold. I mean, the whole time we didn't know there was heat in the house.
Oh, I remember. We ain't know the heat was on.
I mean, we ain't know the heat was on. I mean, we were in there shaking and trembling, and we had to prime the house, and then we painted it, and then after all that, they said, they was like, well, why aren't we just turning the heat on up in here? Well, hell, we ain't know.
Oh, and you are right, honey. It was special because of all of the people who were a part of it. Our home was a whole week project. It was that for 5 homes. It was so nice. It really was amazing. There were so many people out here doing it. Different organizations, city council, all kind of people from downtown. People from all over. They worked hard all day into the night, all 3 shifts. Nailing, building, making sure these homes get built. It was really something. Now, there was a video recording and everything. It was a 1 whole week project. 5 homes being built all night long. They didn't stop. 5 families got into their homes. It was amazing. Baby, what's your favorite room in the house? You know what? My favorite room in the house is my bathroom and my bedroom. I love that. It's just my private time, my me time.
I like the living room. That's the only time I can watch sports. You know, the kids got their rooms, and y'all throw me in the living room. And so I watch some sports. That's all I do.
It meant a lot to do this as a black family. At the time, we were the first one in our families to own our own home. Now, our families were really proud of us to go out and do something like this. We decided to have something of our own. Now, back then, a lot of people never had that opportunity to own their own home.
Yeah. We were young. We were very young. In our early 20s, and my dad helped me. He's passed on now, but my stepdaddy always tell me, I'm so proud of you for what you did. You put your family in something. I tell people all the time, one day you're going to have to own something for your kids and for your grandkids. You're going to have to own something. And we own this house. And I love that, and I love to see that because it's ours. I mean, the kids in the family, they can go in the backyard and throw a football. They can play. They can do whatever they want to do. I mean, they can spend the night. Yes, come on over, spend the night. Yeah, that feels good. This is ours. It feels good.
My greatest loves on Optimist Park have been my grandparents and then my house. Now, I love the rest of my family too. All the memories we've made, all the beautiful times we've had together. But if I had to say my greatest loves in Optimist Park, my grandparents and my house. My grandparents raised us from babies. My mother was there too, but she had to work all the time. So she let us live up there with my grandparents. My grandfather was born in 1884, and my grandmother was born in 1900. They rented the house that we lived in for like $6 a week. I was born here in Charlotte at Good Samaritan Hospital and raised up on East 12th Street, which is now the freeway coming up off of Davidson Street. I went to Alexander Street School. You see, we lived at 600 block of 12th Street, and Alexander Street School was a block below us. I was raised by my grandmother, and my mother stayed a door down from us. It was 5 girls, and 2 were raised by my mother, and we all lived there on East 12th Street. When they brought the freeway through, we all moved up here on North Caldwell Street, and this is where we have been ever since. I was 13 or 14 that first time we moved. We were young kids, and I don't really remember how I felt, but I know our grandparents didn't want to move. They were settled in their house. They rented there, but they had a lot of land. And my granddaddy used an old house in the back for storage. My grandmother had a garden, and it was a lot of land. A great big old yard. We played out there, never could go across the street. If a ball rolled across the street, you couldn't even go across there without permission. That's just how it was. I think to this day, in their mind or something, that maybe they thought the Ku Klux Klan was out there. I don't know. Just overprotective or something. Very, very protective of us. All of us lived right there around each other, and it was a closely knitted community. Our school was close. Our church was even right there on East 11th Street. We just went down the street and around the corner to the church. Everybody knew their neighbors. Not too many people had a telephone, so you would have to go to somebody's house to use their phone. A phone was a delicacy. We had a television, but we didn't have a telephone. That neighborhood was all black. A nice black community, mainly of senior citizens and young people being raised by their parents and stuff. They had lived there all their lives. I don't know how long they lived there before I was born, and I had only ever lived there, but we had to go. I can't remember the year the freeway came, but when it did, everybody had to move, and we moved up here on North Caldwell Street. We moved from 12th Street to Caldwell Street, the 900 block. All of us stayed there until they wanted to bring the other street that cut our houses off. It's the street that curves around. They brought that up there, and then we all had to move again. By that time, I got married. When I got married, me and my husband, we moved to another house on Caldwell Street. When we had children, we ended moving to another house on North Caldwell Street in a Habitat home. I've lived on Caldwell Street ever since 12th Street. We've been here. We've never been out of this area, and I'm 70 now.
I met my husband at Delmar Studio. It was 1971. That's where I was working. They printed wedding pictures, school pictures, stuff like that. I was a printer and he was a material handler. I was shy back then. He liked me. I was not an outgoing person. It took a long time for me to just talk to him. And it was like walking on ice cubes when I knew he was coming to the house for the first time. He had to come. My grandfather was gonna have to lay eyes on him. He came there to date me. My grandfather was very strict. He was a hard pill to swallow. I guess he thought nobody was good enough for me. So when Thomas came to date me, he had to sit in the front room. My grandfather would pass through like he was walking through the door, and Thomas was just nervous. So it went on a first date with him. I had to carry my friend girl with me on my first date. We went to the movies on Kings Drive. I had to carry my friend girl, but I still remember the name of that movie. Play Misty for me. Yes, that was the movie. And a few years later, I married Thomas, my first love. We lived right over here in the community, and I raised kids over here right on Caldwell Street. Caldwell Street is in our blood. I also loved it here because it just reminds me of family. So my grandparents and my mama and my husband and kids, and then there's my sisters. You know, we just a close-knit family. It's always been important for us to be close to each other. It's 5 of us sisters, and we've been raised here, lived here. We've never moved out of this vicinity. Some have moved to different places in the city, but we've never been out of Charlotte. And we won't ever move out of Charlotte. Child, we done got too old. The baby sister's 65. I don't think she wants to go anywhere. We're pretty settled. My grandfather died in July of '76. My grandmother followed him in October. They were soulmates. It was a big loss for my whole family. But me and my 5 sisters, God has blessed us to still be alive. I'm the only one holding it down for Caldwell now. We've been here since '88. One of my other sisters is still in the neighborhood down the way. The others are in other places in Charlotte, but we stay close. We have coffee once a week. Every Sunday, we go to my baby sister's house. All of us go over there and have some kind of sweet dessert and coffee and just talk and catch up. It's a tradition. I love my sisters. I do. But like I said, one of my greatest loves in Optimist Park, now that's my house. I was so excited to own a home. I never thought we would own a home. It was always rent, 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 rent. One time Thomas came home and told me about Habitat. I was saying, I don't know about that, but he had already started the application. And we got it. It was so exciting when I first got my house. It was an exciting time. It's almost like, you know, when a child is young and Christmas comes and you actually get what you want. I never thought we would own a home, but we got it at the right time because now it's paid for. When I first got in here, I wanted to paint, put my touches on stuff. The next thing I wanted to do was get me some new furniture. I changed the inside of my house seasonally. I change it with the seasons. It takes care of my home because I love my home. I'm proud of it. Now, I hate to brag, but when people come to my house, I want them to say, ooh, that looks good. Now, that right there, that's nice. Be excited that they never seen nothing like that. You didn't know a house could look like that. I want them to marvel at my home. That makes me feel good. It uplifts me and it pushes me on. I guess in some ways, when I think about all the people and the things that I love, I think about the many moments that I've made my life worth living. I can't see my life, my story, or my legacy without Optimist Park. This neighborhood has been everything for me and my family. I've loved my grandparents and my mother, my sisters, my Thomas, my kids, my home, all right here, all on Optimist Park.
Every so often, you just have to have these Holy Spirit moments, you know? Those moments are unexplainable, but when they happen, it's magical. This moment, it was so spontaneous. There is a point in Episcopal tradition when we share the peace. That's a truth across lots of faith traditions. Now, in some congregations, you stand and you shake hands with the people around you, but you pretty much stay put. At the chapel, everybody gets up. Everybody gets out of their pew. Everybody moves around. We don't just shake hands, we hug everybody. Now, to be a first-time visitor there, it might be like, wow, okay. But there is just this real appreciation for everybody who is there. Now, for a long time, we didn't have a musician. We got a grant that enabled us to have a musician, and he was really, really good. Toward the end of the piece, he would improvise on the keyboard. We never knew exactly what it was going to be. Now, one Sunday, towards the end of the piece, he started very softly playing This Little Light of Mine. You know, all jazzed up a little bit. And it caught hold. We started moving in time with the music, humming, and then pretty much some of us were singing. And then everybody was singing. And it got to be a thing. We would go back home energized, spirit-filled, and holding on to the realization that the song captured who we are as a chapel, as a people. Now, we are little. We are not big, and we're not a mighty force. We're not rich, but we believe in letting our light shine. That's what we do in Optimist Park. We let our light shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm